Your hand up and we'll grab someone. But so this one over here. Gondor. Woohoo! We have a winner. This one. Rohan. This one. What else? This one. Warfish. Yeah. Yeah. Good thing it's 2 hours. Oh, well, so far they're wonderfully welcoming and friendly and eager to get involved and engage in dialogue. They laugh at our jokes, which is really nice, even the ones that are not funny. So I found them to be lovely, and I keep coming back because I have such a nice time here.
I really enjoy it as well, actually. This is my second time to Germany. So, yeah, really nice. It's as what Daniel was saying as well. I think for me, because I don't speak German, it's just we're very lucky to just be able to have a conversation with someone, and their person more or less understands us. So that's to do something like what we've just done now. If you can't communicate very well, it's really hard. So we're very, very lucky, actually.
So yeah, thank you for speaking English.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, I'm impressed that the Germans very kindly laid on some snow for us this morning.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be spring here, but because we don't see snow very often, and so it was very nice of them to make
give me the opportunity to hit Daniel with a snowball.
Yeah, he did, and he got me too.
Yeah. So yes, but yeah, and it's very beautiful, eh?
It is, yeah, we've enjoyed it so far.
No, actually, I do run workshops back home. Yep. Not really through with WETA. We usually do talks, but I have another sort of company which I run part time, which does workshops. And usually I do them at universities. We go up to an art school and, we get maybe a classroom of 20 people together. And we do, to be honest, it's similar to this. We'll set a brief and then it'll either be drawing or maybe on the computers. But and it's but they last 2 days. So it's quite intense.
Yeah.
Maybe a day, but 2 hours is pretty rare. Normally it's 1 day to 2 days.
Yeah. This was a short one, and I haven't done much of this sort of thing before, so I let Paul lead and I follow, but it's been fun.
Yeah, it's good. I love getting people drawing. That's the fun stuff, getting anyone can draw actually. So I think that's the nice thing, and some people don't realize that until they just have a go. So yeah.
And in our work, it's less about creating a beautiful drawing and more about communicating a good idea. And so really the drawing is a vehicle towards just expressing what the idea is. So you don't need to be the most amazing drawer in the world as long as you can draw just enough to get your idea out.
Yeah. I think, admittedly, some of the directors these days certainly do
expect a good drawing.
Good drawing, but I'd like in anything, the more you practice, the better you get. Yeah. I think, and sooner or later you may be able to draw as good as Alan or John, but that's a lot of practice.
Not in this lifetime.
Not in this lifetime.
Some of the processes are a little different in that, it being 10 years later, we are a lot more technologically equipped at WETA. So when I was working on Lord of the Rings, we were mostly doing pencil sketches, and sometimes we would colour them in with marker pens. And towards the very end, we started using Photoshop, but really only at the very end of the process. Coming back to Middle-earth again 10 years later, now all of our designers are on computers, and so while we all do still sketch and things like that as well, we're painting on the computers, which means that we can you can expect a much higher level of finish, and the director has a much higher level of finish expected in the artwork that we're doing. But also you have the ability to change things very quickly and offer variations and options on your artwork. So in that sense, we work a lot more on computers now than we ever did before. But in the end, it all just comes down to a good idea, same as it always did. But in terms of the stuff that we're actually designing, the really fun thing with The Hobbit, of course, is we have this company of dwarves, and we only had one dwarf in The Lord of the Rings. We have 13 dwarves or more in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And so taking that dwarven culture and expanding it and having so much fun with it that was challenging and a lot of fun at the same time. Well, it's another tool. It's just a tool.
But it's a tool that's become indispensable to the process. I think, like for instance, in Lord of the Rings there were a lot of miniatures, whereas in The Hobbit, I believe the bulk of it is probably CG. digital. So there have definitely been, across the whole industry, there's definitely been sort of a changing of new tools to replace old tools at some level.
But it is replacing. That's true. But then at the same time, it's also adding. Like we still have a swordsmith, we still have leather workers, we still have seamstresses, we still have people building things with their hands. But now we also have a laser cutter and a plasma cutter and a 3D milling machine and a 3D printer, and so it adds to what you can do. And and sometimes you can find more efficient ways of doing things. Sometimes you can find ways of making it more detailed or more accurate. But it's additive, I would hope, to the process rather than subtractive.
Yeah, I think so too.
It gives you more options.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're an artisan workshop, so I think we still all love the handcraft aspect of it. But, the reality of the world we live in now, we need to find the best way to use these new tools and with the old as well. And I think that's the trick. But I mean, it really just comes down, ultimately, it still comes down to the quality of the idea, the design, and then just finding the best tools to use to realize that design for being in front of the screen. And we used every trick under the book, sometimes, it was, and it wasn't, sometimes it's not just one thing, it's many things. Something might be modeled in a computer, then it's milled on a 3D milling machine, but then it's given to a model maker to completely age back, because we needed to make sure that the new stuff still has that same believability and integrity of the handcraft, but there was plenty of handcraft on the Hobbit stuff as well, but you have to match things. And I think that's the challenge, is you wanted to have that sense of continuity.
Yeah. All the things that you guys argue about on the forums, we argue about as well. We all talk about the same stuff, So I'm sure we've discussed the same things you guys have. But believe me, there is a ton of really cool stuff to come in this next film, and Thranduil's Throne is just one of them. I know what you mean. It's beautiful with the big antlers and the root. Yeah, really cool.
This one, I think it was Alan, wasn't it?
I think it might have been Alan or John or both of them together.
Probably, yeah.
Any change, quite rightly, is going to be debated and so on. Yeah, but I hope people will reserve final judgment until they've seen all three together and they see in the full context how it all works, and then they can decide if it was a good idea or a bad idea. But in the end, that is up to the audience to decide. It's Peter has done what he thinks is right, but for each of us as Tolkien fans, when we go to see these movies, it's up to us to decide whether or not we think that he did everything the way we liked it, and then in our own minds we can sort of dismiss the bits we didn't like and embrace the bits we did like, and it's the same for everyone.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's such a rewarding part of our job, is because we're, you guys are fans, but we're fans too. That's, at the end of the day, we are colossal fans ourselves. And I think a huge part of the satisfaction we get when we're designing is we're not designing exactly to the film. We're usually designing to what we are wanting in it as a fan as well. Like can we somehow find a way of making this bit relate to another part of the Tolkien world? Or, we get excited about, building something into a design which no one will probably ever see, but it feels true to you as a fan that should be in there. It's fitting for that aspect or pattern to be in there because it links back to that character. We build these little backstories. But I think due to the nice books that, like, say, Daniel's working on now, we do get a chance to share those backstories and those things. But I think the fans really get it. They see that love and they know that it's important. And so I think that's a big part of it.
And definitely. And so and to that point, when you see somebody has caught a detail that you put in a design and they recognize it and they like it enough to go and then replicate it themselves and spend their own time and money making a costume based on something you've designed, that's a tremendous compliment from one fan to another of, hey, I like what you've done. And so I'm always so enthralled when I see these amazing costumes that people have done. And particularly so because at the workshop, you have all these specialists and all this equipment, and you have a budget, and you have amazing materials, and you have incredible expertise, and they come up with these amazing costumes and props and weapons. But when I come to things like RingCon, HobbitCon, other conventions, and I meet with fans, they're doing it in their basement or in their garage, and they're doing it themselves with their own money, teaching themselves every skill. That's pretty impressive stuff. So if they can match at some level what we're doing with a whole workshop full of technical specialists, and they can do it in their own backyard, That's amazing.
I think the cool thing, though, as well, is that that's where so many of those artisans from workshop, that's how they started out.
That's their background.
Richard started in the basement pretty much. So, do you know what I mean? It's like that's where you start out, and you refine those skills and you hone those skills. And that's where most of us start out, though, to be honest. I mean, I started out doodling in the back of my maths book because I couldn't pay attention in my maths class. But do you know what I mean? It's like everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
There's this preconception that people are just born a genius at something. Maybe there are, but they are so rare. 99.9% of everyone else, it's just putting love and passion and hours into something, and that's how you get better. It's pouring the love into something. So I think that's what I've noticed at work, is that you're just surrounded by these people that have a common interest in love and attention to detail. I think that's the big thing. I think we're all such different people at the workshop, but we come from different backgrounds, everything's different. But there are a few things that if I look across everyone at the workshop, it's one of the things that always stands out is attention to detail. They can do the big stuff, but then they can go right down to like the smallest detail, and that's a great skill to have, I think.
It's a little different than the first Chronicle book. The first Chronicle book, art and design, is obviously about the concept art for the first movie, and it's about the ideas. The second book picks up where that one finishes, and it talks about how those characters and creatures then were realized. So we talk with the actors about their feelings about their characters. We talk to the makeup artists. We talk to the folks who made the prosthetics and see how they make them. We talk to the folks at WETA Digital who are doing the special digital creatures, and they take us in depth into their processes and what they're thinking about when they're making them. We talk with the dialect coaches who talk about the accents that different characters have. We talk to the movement coaches about how a dwarf moves as opposed to how an orc moves as opposed to how an elf moves. So it's all that kind of stuff. If you could say that the first Chronicle was about the ideas, the second is about the execution of those ideas and how it all comes together to create those. And it is my hope that going forward, the future Chronicles books will be similar in that you'll have some that look at the art design and then some that focus on a different aspect of the filmmaking process. So it's creatures this time, something different next time.
Thank you for welcoming us over here. I think would be the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's fairly safe to say that I think everyone knows that Germany is a real home to fantasy and science fiction. I think it is one of those countries that just embraces genre so much more so than other countries. So that's kind of exciting to kind of come to a place where this kind of stuff is valued so well.
Yeah, and plus we just have a great time when we're here. They look after us well. They're so friendly, and we like the German beer.
We do like the German beer, actually. That is definitely a major plus.
We hope that we don't embarrass ourselves so much that they don't bring us back.
Yeah.